Hey, this is Shane. I'm always playing with my hair. I'm back with a vinyl update. This one is for the Tampa record show. Now I had shot this yesterday and I cut off after a minute 7, so I can't have probably long or not a minute 7, an hour 7. So I can't have that. So this is the pickups I did at the Tampa record show, which was on Saturday. So it's a little late. Most of these people like to get that out the same day or the next day, and to me it's just like if people are still interested, they could watch it a few days later. So I have this huge bag here, an oldies bag full of goodies, music goodies, and I'm just gonna get into it and show you what I picked up. These cassettes I got there were top notch. I'll say this much. I'm not going to go over them in detail. Kind of want to go over the albums more in detail. Got some CDs, some 45s, and of course vinyl. So the first 4 I picked up, I would say, were all from the same vendor, and they were 2 for $5. And I thought these were just interesting. There were a bunch of different cassettes sealed, and so it was like $3 a piece, but he gave me 2 for $5. So this one is Black Man's History, Volume 2 of The Legend of Malcolm X. I don't know what label this is off. It says Paul Winley Records, so I need to get Volume 1. But I was just talking to somebody today at work about Malcolm X, and just like what an incendiary figure he was back then. An interesting guy for sure. Yeah, so this is probably just a documentary about his, sounds like maybe the history of where he was coming from and so on and so forth. So Malcolm X. Malcolm X, music for the documentary, film that came out in 1972. As you can see, it was a cutout bin. So I don't mind for $2 getting this. I think this is kind of going to be an interesting listen. I'm going to give this a spin tomorrow. So, yeah, that's about it. So, Malcolm X, music from the documentary. Let's see. It doesn't say who scored it, but it's music, speeches, and dialogue from the historical 1972 documentary film. I have so much to show. I got to go through these fast. Pledging My Love, Johnny Ace. Compilation album of Johnny Ace's kind of hits from 1986. I believe this came out. Yep. On the MCA label. Johnny Ace, of course, I don't need to go into too much detail. Soul singer who had some poppy elements to him. Much like to me, much like fucking the Platters did. Really interesting singer. And of course he died from the old game of Russian roulette, which most people know the legend. Pledging My Love was released afterwards and became a huge hit. Probably hit number 1 maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I've been a fan of Johnny Ace for a long time. Love his music. Yeah, and this one's cool. Rudy Ray Moore, The Streaker. That's right. I can't, well, it's not showing anything anyways because he's got his privates. Get that. Yep. 19, it says 88 release. I think this is a comedy album of Rudy Ray Moore, and he was a comedian, so this is probably like stand-up comedy, and happy to have this. Really happy to have this. He's such a goofball, man. Of course, Dolomite and what Petey Wheatstraw and some of those. These next cassettes, I'm gonna try to fly through these. These were all I got all these for $40 combined. So what the guy said was, if you buy the one cassette for $40, you basically get the rest for free. So otherwise, this haul of cassettes right here would have been easily over $100. So for $40, it's not bad. So with that is Toxic. Doing the nasty. Great thrash band from the, not thrash, but kind of, I don't know what you would call these guys. Not thrash like hair, but kind of sleazy hair metal maybe. This came out in 1992. A little too late, maybe, for 92 for it being uh, kind of metal, but still nonetheless on the Capitol label. This one was originally priced at $10. And yeah, I think this is kind of more in the lines of like hair slash sleaze metal. So Slick Toxic. I love this band. This band's a lot of fun to me. Dangerous Toys, Pissed, the third album by Dangerous Toys. Now I have all three Dangerous Toys, the first three Dangerous Toys releases on cassette. So that's pretty cool. I just picked up Hellacious Acres last year. That one was $5. This one was originally priced at $10. I got it for free. This is on an independent label, so of course Dangerous Toys were pissed. Hence the title of the album, 1994 release. So a little heavy, a little angrier than the normal sort of sleazy and fun Dangerous Toys, and really good, really good. So Dangerous Toys, love this band. If you find metal, to me it's like, if I find metal on cassette, it's like, it's not even a question. I'm just gonna get it. Drop Acid, Making God Smile. This is a band, I want to say, I think they're from California. They're not, but they were taking on that Seattle sound, a real Nirvana worship of sorts, alternative metal slash grungy punk, I guess. Kind of a combo of both. And they were doing this way before, like, I think a little bit before, I should say, like maybe even Pearl Jam was. This is on the Restless Record label, and this one was $20. Originally, like I said, I got mine for, yeah, this was 1991 release, so fairly early on in the thing. I love this kind of 90s, what do you want, grunge metal or alternative metal or whatever you want to call it. I love it. So Drop Acid, Making God Smile. Look at the back of this. That guy doesn't look like he's done some doobies or some drugs. I don't know what. Look at him. Rob Zombie, your brother's on the back of this album. Dirty Looks. This is Chewing on the Bit. So this is a 1994 release. 1994, to be sure. Yeah, 1994 release by the great Dirty Looks. AC/DC worship. I spend this band's like sort of thing, and that's what this band is. And they're up. It's a lot of fun. So at least the first few Dirty Looks sounded kind of AC/DC worship, kind of more hard rock than anything. I don't know about this album. I've never seen anything past their first two albums, like on CD or cassette or anything. So this to me is a little rare. So I'm happy to have it. Man, if I only could get some Rhino Bucket, I would be even happier. Leatherwolf. This is their second album, Street Ready. This one again was $10. I got this for free. The reason I keep repeating that is because that's the kind of deals you can get at record shows. 1990, 89 record on Island Records. LA-based band. To me, this is a band that had everything going for it and just did not get it through. And this is their second album. To me, this is like street, when it says Street Ready, this is like street metal. It's just like tough, like sort of city metal, you know. I don't know how to explain it. It's like definitely like, you could tell these guys are on the streets, you know, kind of got moxie and attitude, that kind of thing. They're pretty good, Leatherwolf was. I wouldn't call them hair. I just kind of almost like traditional metal, and pretty good for the late late 80s. Leatherwolf. This is a band that should have gotten bigger than what they did. Maybe the name Leatherwolf. So these last two are probably the most expensive. This one is definitely rare and hard to find. And this is Butthole Surfers with Hairway to Steven. And I want to get this on vinyl because I have the first three Butthole Surfers on vinyl. So until I get out on vinyl, I'm going to keep this cassette. And I might keep it anyways. Yes, it has a crack in it, but I'm sure it looks like it's going to play fine on the sort of touch and go label. So Yeah. Um, still like weird and stuff, but there's some acoustic passages on this album that kind of surprised me. And I dare say that this is a transitional album, but it certainly, I guess, could be looked at that way, especially with P.O. coming afterwards. Um, but it's still one of the essential touch and go Butthole Surfers albums, in my opinion. And the follow up to Locust Abortion Technician, which is my favorite Butthole album. I love this band. Weird, whatever you want to call them, noise rock, whatever. And this one I actually had to pay full price for, which was $40. But come on, this is a steal of all steel, a grail for cassettes. Sepultura and Schizophrenia. Very, very cool. You can see it right there, $40. So, I mean, I got a steal, I feel. 7 cassettes for $40, and they're all like metal or the one alternative. Um, yeah, this is their second studio album, and a great metal album, extreme metal album. I'd almost consider this to be um, like death metal, really. I mean, for 1987, this pumps, man. This really fucking pumps, and it's excellent. It's excellent. I have only listened to this album probably once in my life. I know that's sad to say because I like extreme music, but I liked it, And when they sort of went into Chaos AD and into like Roots, I still liked that Sepultura, but I always had more of an affinity of the earlier, like Beneath the Remains, that kind of stuff. Morbid Visions, those albums. I think it's Morbid Visions. I believe it is. So, Sepultura. Yeah, that's it for the cassettes. Let's get into the CDs. Got a lot to show you. Got a few 45 singles I'm going to show you too. So these CDs I'm going to just fly through. Most of these I picked up. Here they are. Most of these I picked up for really, really cheap. Some I got into a trade where I gave this guy a box of CDs. But the first two I paid for, and the last sort of box set I paid for. So this is History Never Repeats, the best of Split Ends. This is a good deal for $1. New Zealand new wave band from the early 80s. Really interesting lyrics, almost abstract, but almost like personal confessional. Really interesting new wave band on the, to me, more like ambitious side of new wave, just at least from a lyrical point of view. They had the big hit "I Want You," but I've heard some of their other albums besides the one that has I'm sorry, "I Got You," not "I Want You." "I Got You." I heard some of those other albums by them, "Missing Fingerprints," and it was really fucking good. I think that's the name of that album. I can't remember now. Somebody will always correct you on YouTube, online. They always like to correct, which I don't mind if people correct me on my channel. I really don't care, but I almost think it's just incessant need to feel right. And so I got to tell you you're wrong, so I can tell you I'm right. And there's an ego to it I think in some cases. This is the Island Story. This is 1962 to 87. This was $3. I've been wanting this for a fucking while. I've had this in the past, and I gave it away. I'm probably going to give it away again, but I'm happy to get it for $3. I bought this off this old vendor who was just old and like kind of crotchety, kind of down on his luck. So I bought a few things from him. I bought a record, which I'll show you later. I like the guy, but I mean, he wasn't very friendly, but I talked to him for a little while on the Island label. So record shows are awesome. They're just fun to do, and I was selling there. So I didn't really get a break to go see what was out there till about 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Did I finally go out and get my haul? So it was way afterwards. So I cherry picked what was left, and there was a lot of good stuff left. This has a bunch of island artists on it. I'm not going to name them all. I'll name a few. Traffic, of course, Steve Winwood, U2, Robert Palmer, Sly and Robbie, Grace Jones, Jesus, Tom Waits, Julian Cope, the Buggles, Sparks, a bunch of cool acts on this. So I like these compilation things. I've been wanting to get this Island Story on vinyl too, and it's fairly inexpensive when I've seen it out there. Real quick with this is um, a great label. Island Records is a great label, and often a very diverse and underappreciated record label. For being a major label, they really have a diverse roster and a very good roster of stuff. So yeah, I used to see, I'll take a chance on Island is what I used to say, because most of the stuff I've heard on Island I've really liked. Vanilla Trainwreck. Now this was mine originally, so I got the next 5 CDs in trade. So I just bought this back. This guy bought this from me years ago, and I certainly might keep it now. This is a band from, I thought maybe Raleigh, North Carolina. I know they're from North Carolina, and it's 90s sounding off the Mammoth label. Just a picture of the band. You can kind of guess this is like college rock. It's got some hooks. It's got some definitely like heavier guitars. This kind of reminds me of like a catchier, but bottom heavy like version of Buffalo Tom, to an extent. Not as quite as I think confessional as Buffalo Tom, or just elegant maybe, if that's a word I'm thinking of. But definitely pretty good. Catchy songs too. Like if Buffalo Tom was trying to be more up tempo, maybe something like that, I guess. These bands, Vanilla Trainwreck, there's just so many of these bands that came out in the 90s, and to kind of categorize their sound correctly is hard for me. This is another one I had in the past, and I'm keeping this one for myself. This is Lee Scratch Perry from the Secret Laboratory, 91 release off of Island Records, 90 release off of Island Records. I heard his stuff, Lee Scratch Perry, Mr. Dub musician. I heard his stuff in a record store one day, and I told the owner I really liked what I had heard, and he said he'd hook me up with some Lee Scratch Perry and some of the more electronic stuff. I'm a big fan of the kind of more minimal, kind of keyboard written dub or whatever it is called music. I love it, and I heard it and I was like, that's great. And I think this is maybe on the ass end of that, maybe that sort of electronic synth keyboard influenced sort of reggae dub music. But Lee Scratch Perry is always worth taking a chance on. Yeah, from the Secret Laboratory. I had this was mine. I sold it to that guy. He couldn't sell it back, so I'll keep it this time for at least a little while. I don't think I can. I wouldn't sell it at that show, because the people at the Tampa Record Show, they're very peculiar about what they want. So I never know what's going to sell. The two things I know will sell for sure are jazz and disco and soul music. That shit always sells. That's right, Canada Dry. So I usually don't go out and get sodas because I have stuff at the house, but I decided to splurge. Weld, disc 2 of Neil Young, and Weld disc 1. So both Welds together. So this is the first disc on here. It's got a great live version of Crime in the City. This was released, I believe, back in 1991, and the critics did not like this at the time, saying he's kind of going through the motions. And side 2 here has like Cortez the Killer, Powderfinger, Rockin' in the Free World. The last number, or the last track on here, Roll Another Number, is great. So fuck what the critics said. I like Neil Young, so anything by him. Weld, I can't believe they were sitting in there. I was like, shit, I'll take them. This is a triple feature. I love these little CD sets. They got 3 albums on one, and this is Kansas's triple feature. Kansas self-titled, Mosque, and Monolith. All kinds of different albums. And to me, this is marks kind of like different eras of Kansas in a sense. Obviously, still with Steve Walsh on vocals, but there you go. There you go. I'm not gonna pull out the CDs. Well, I'll pull out one, but the first one very kind of more on that really progressive rock vein, on the heavier side of things a little bit. Mosque is a much more diverse record, and Monolith is kind of an uneven record that's got a little bit of everything on it. Monolith's got one of my favorite songs on here. People of the South Wind is absolutely gorgeous and Reason to Be. But Mosque might be the best album they made. I mean, it's up to debate. It's got Child of Innocence on here. Icarus is great. It's You, Mysteries of Mayhem. I really like Mosque a lot, and it's an album I always find for like $1. So I always pick up Kansas. Monolith was a record I picked up when I was in Chicago. Me and my friend James went to a thrift store, and he knew I was into vinyl. So he had reached some money somehow. I don't know how, but he had some extra money, and he goes, "Well, if you find any vinyl in here, I'll pick it up for you." And I found Monolith, and I think I found Two for the Road, the other double live Kansas album. I think it's a double live album. And Monolith came home with me, and I listened to it a lot. Kansas is a weird band for me because they're not really like I don't know, I just like them, like I always go back to like them and Genesis and King Crimson and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull. I always goes back to those bands every now and then. This I picked up from the same guy I picked up those cassettes, those metal cassettes, the Sepultura and those. This was originally priced at $20. I'm like, I'll buy it from you for $5, and he was okay with it. This is Duran Duran. This is a 3 CD set, and I'm briefly going to go through these. I really want to try to get this done in an hour if I can. Notorious, which is their 4th studio album with only 3 of the members in the band at the time, which would have been Nick Rhodes, John Taylor, and Simon Le Bon. And so it's almost like Arcadia, which was similar, like a trio, but I'm not sure who was in that either. But this has got the great single, Notorious. The follow-up, Skin Trade, is a great, slick, kind of sensual song. There's a few good tracks on here. I kind of like this record, but it's definitely dancey. It's definitely of its time. Dancey being like kind of dance music, really. Kind of slick. Very, very probably hated amongst some Duran Duran fans. In their first, or the album that came out before that, this is Seventh in the Ragged Tiger. Seven in the Ragged Tiger, kind of a weird name. This album to me is like, it's got dance elements, but it's very abstract in a way and esoteric, and it's got kind of, to me, like a very artsy kind of thing. And these, of course, the guys love Roxy music and all that kind of stuff, glam music. So, like, to me, it kind of makes sense that they're kind of going down this rabbit hole. Of course, it does have some dance songs like The Reflex, New Moon and Monday is on here, which I always thought was a weird song, and of course the awesome, mysterious Union of the Snake. Few good deep tracks on here. The Seventh Stranger, very kind of almost progressive in a way, and Cracks in the Pavement is an excellent track on here. And the Duran Duran, because this is taking much longer than I thought it was going to take. This is also called the Wedding Album. It's also Duran Duran. So it goes by 2 different titles, but I think it's called the Wedding Album. This was a big comeback for them, if you guys remember too. This had Come Undone, which is a great song, and The Wonderful Ordinary World, which is those songs are almost worth just getting this just for those 2 tracks. There's a few other good tracks. This Feels really mature for them. Songs like Love Voodoo, I kind of like that song. Breath After Breath, I like that song. The stinker on here, and I kind of still like it, is their version of Femme Fatale. It's quite ridiculous. So that's the end of the CDs. As you can see, I picked up a lot of stuff already, and I haven't even gotten into that. But yeah, don't sleep on this album. It's actually pretty good. A little tranquil, sure. A little more mellow, yeah, sure, but it's still quite good. By Duran Duran. But then again, I'm an unabashed fan of this band. I'd buy anything on vinyl by them. So Duran Duran three CD set. I was like all over that. All right, 245 singles. The first one is one of my favorite songs by Sammy Hagar, Eagles Fly. I love this song, and the B side is what is it? Handed Knees, both off the 1987 album I Never Said Goodbye. And I love that record by Sammy. I know it's like kind of considered like one of his weaker solo albums, but I love that. I grew up on that record. I had that on cassette when it came out. Eagles Fly is a absolute fantastic track by him. He is a marvel at being able to combine emotion and melody in kind of hard rock. I mean, he's just great at it. I've always talked about how great Billy Squier is at it, but so is Sammy Hagar, and I'm really happy to have this on 45. So I love that song. And this is Awesome Stars. That's right, Hearing Aid. This is the 12-inch, not the 12-inch, which I have the 12-inch single. This is the 45 single to this with, of course, Ronnie James Dio, Dave Meniketti from Y&T, Who's Who of metal people. Some of the guys from Quiet Riot are on here. Paul Sortino sings on here from Rough Cut. Goddamn, Don Dokken is on here. Kevin DeBro from Quiet Riot is on here. Jesus, I can't go through all. Some of the guys from Spinal Tap are on here. I mean, just looking at this list of people on here, it is absolutely nuts. Tommy Aldridge, Jimmy Bain, of course, played with Dio. Whew. I'm not even going to go through all of it. Rob Halford, a few guys from Wasp, Blackie, Lawless, and Chris Holmes. But yeah, pretty cool. We're Stars, which is really like the metal version of USA for Africa. But I always thought Stars was cool, even though I was a kid, I thought it was cheesy. I thought it was pretty cool. So, Hearing Aid Stars, that's pretty sweet, I think, to get that on 45. My brother got those for me. Which I thought was pretty cool. Okay, let's get into the albums because I want to kind of knock this out. About 20 some albums here. I'll try to knock these out as quick as possible. Like I said, I'm really trying to get this shit done at a decent pace because I got so much to do. So this first album isn't really mine. I didn't buy it. One of the customers came to my table, sat it down, and then just left. So I went to go find him. I got busy with other customers. I went to go look for him later. He was gone. So I got Cool in the Gang's Emergency, 1984 release. Actually, you could almost consider this an EP because it's only got 7 songs, but it's also considered a full-length album. And this was kind of a blockbuster album for Woman to an extent because it was a hit machine on here. 4 of the singles out of the 7 released were top 40 hits. Emergency, the title track, is fun. Misled, kind of more of a rock track. Fresh, and the cheesy ballad Cherish, which I really do not like. This has Surrender, the funky as hell Bad Woman, and You Are the One on it, on the tracks. Kind of definitely going down that commercial rabbit hole. This is the Cool in the Gang that old funksters hate, but I certainly kind of enjoy this. I mean, I was around when this came out, so I was happy to have it. So, all right. These I picked up for basically $2 a piece off the guy who runs the Tampa Bay Record Show. His name's Pat. So I was really happy to have him. bought stuff from his table because he's cheap. And this first $2 record is Tintin, and the album is called Astral Taxi. So anybody that would call their album that, you can pretty much guarantee that this is going to be spacey or psychedelic, which it certainly is, but it's also poppy as well. And I'm going to say I think Maurice Gibbs produced or worked on one of their albums. I don't think it's this one. This is off the Atco label. Look at these doofuses. So, yeah, 70s psych spacey pop stuff. Pat, runs the show, the Tampa Bay show, seemed to think that this is a cool band and had talked about them. I have no clue. I've never heard of them. Free Heartbreaker, their last album together, before, of course, Paul Rodgers went on to form Bad Company. And this is a great album. This is my favorite album. This brings back a lot of nostalgia because when this album came out in the late 70s, I of course hadn't heard it, but when I was doing the record shows back in the 2000s, I used to do a lot of them in Michigan. I had bought this on CD and took it home and listened to it, and it became a staple in my rotation of stuff I played a lot. And there's certain songs on this that I love a lot. Like, I love Wishing Well, the first song on here. Traveling in Style, Heartbreaker's great. And my all-time favorite Free song, and maybe Paul Rodgers' song, is on here, a song called Muddy Water, which is a ballad that has kind of a interesting sort of gospel kind of tinge to it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I still, to this day, is my favorite Free song and favorite Paul Rodgers song. And it might not do anything for anybody who listens to it. To me, I think it's absolutely beautiful. So, Free Heartbreaker. This is cool to have. Moving along now. This is Phaedra, the motion picture soundtrack. This is based on the old Grecian tale of Phaedra, which was, I believe, I think this is about a love story between a woman and her stepson. So getting a little Shakespearean weirdness here, even maybe before Shakespeare, but some pre-Shakespeare weirdness here. And the soundtrack is scored by a guy named, I believe his name is Mikis Theodorakis, which I think I had another album by him and I really enjoyed it because it has a kind of this gypsy sort of, I don't want to say gypsy, but like this sort of world music flair to it, and this having like a Grecian kind of feel to it. Really cool soundtracks. His kind of stood out in the 60s to me, the soundtracks I've heard anyways, because there was this world kind of element to it. So it added like a little bit of a joviality to the score. So as soon as I saw that that's who composed this, I was a fan. I think I want to say Anthony Perkins is in this movie. But I love soundtracks, especially 50s, 60s, 40s. I will buy those almost all day long. I love them. Styx and Lady. Da 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 da. This is a compilation album by Styx. I think most of these were singles released on the Wood and Nickel label that RCA got a hold of and released it on their own label in 1980. And it's got Lady on it and a few great older tracks. No real like songs you know unless you're a big fan of Styx. Like You Need Love, You Better Ask, Earl of Roseland. And I love the last track on here. It's a rocker. I'm gonna make you feel it. Old Styx is good shit. You know, I'm a fan. So yeah, but this is the Shrink hype sticker is still on here. It says the $3.99 budget. Yeah, definitely something I could sell later on if I want to, which I will. I mean, pretty much all these I'm getting rid of. Hot and Tasty. No, Hot and Nasty, Rob Rio. I'm not sure where this guy's from, but this was I would like to think he's from New York, but this label is on puts him on records out of Boulder, Colorado, and I love this cover right here, and I love the fact you can see him. Look at that, looking like his best Frankie Avalon. Um, and you can see the Pussyman records. I love anything that's a regional feel to it. Like anything that's got like a regional feel to it, I love, and so I automatically love this. So I'm really, really happy to have this on vinyl. I just love this kind of regional. Like no place should have this record except for that state. And people move, and then they bring their records with them, and you have the pleasure of being able to listen to stuff that's like should have been kept a secret in one state. It spreads throughout. I love regional music. I will buy this stuff every time. I think there's such an interesting idea of an artist who's kind of trapped in a geographical quandary, and you find this thing of it, and you're like thinking back in 1980. Well, this came out in 83. You know, like he had all these dreams and aspirations, and I think Rob Rio still performs. This is considered like jazzy boogie woogie music, but it looks almost like it's rock and roll too. So I don't know if anybody knows Rob Rio, hot and nasty. I mean, oh god. The Gospel According to Don Shirley, you betcha. Love Don Shirley, jazz. I think he's a jazz pianist. I believe he is. And there's something about his music I find really almost spiritual and sometimes even profound. And I got into him by accident. To me, he's like the James Baldwin of jazz musicians. There's something really intellectual and philosophical, kind of, and spiritual about his music. And I find that to be really interesting in jazz because, of course, I know some of the John Coltrane stuff that has a spiritual dimension to it, but I don't know all of it. I mean, obviously Ornette Coleman too, and Sun Ra, going really spacey. But Don Shirley was somebody I bought his albums for real cheap, and I liked them, and I ended up selling them at a show years back. It's off the Columbia label. So, yeah, I don't know. I like this guy's stuff. It kind of touched me in a way when I had heard it years back. So I'm hoping they still like it. So Don Shirley, the Gospel According to Don Shirley. I love that cover too. The back is just. Alrighty, we're moving along. Change of Heart. Now this should have been my change of heart because every time I go and buy a stack of records, I always make a mistake and buy one that I wish I wouldn't have had, and this is one I wish I wouldn't have bought in 1978 release on the Arista label, and I kind of knew, you know, I don't know why I bought this. I was like thinking, I wouldn't mind hearing some solo Eric Carmen stuff. I've had albums by him in the past, right, and I've liked what I've heard by it, but I guess I think that maybe in my mind I think that Eric Carmen's stuff is going to be just like the Raspberries, and it never is. I don't know why I have that in my mind, but I do. So this album in particular is his ode to soul music, and I should have known it when I saw a cover of Baby I Need Your Loving on it. Which is that? Is that the Four Tops, or I think it is. It's a Motown group, whoever it is. I think it's the Four Tops. And he does a cover of Hey Deanie on here, which is a song that was done by Sean Cassidy. So, and hopefully I'll find somebody, because every now and then, when I do these shows, I try to find somebody who's interested in, like, buying stuff like this. Because I bought some Christopher Cross, and then I sold it. So my hope is I always can find the one buyer that wants something like really ridiculous. Like I had this lady come to my table at the show and she goes, I'm looking for Christopher Cross in Ronnie Milsap. No one, no one would normally ask for those two artists. I go, I have Christopher Cross in the bargain bin, no Ronnie Milsap that I know of. And she was happy with the Christopher Cross. So, Sean Phillips, Transcendence. I love Sean Phillips album covers. These are awesome. Remind you guys, these were all $2 a piece. 1978 release. This could get in a weird, dicey territory for me with Sean Phillips, but I love the cover and the back. I think he went on to teach music, Sean Phillips, but this is, at least his earlier stuff has a sort of transcendental, really kind of meditative, even psychedelic aspect of folk music, into like rock, sometimes folk rock, but kind of folky music. And I love like some of those early albums by him, and I'm hoping that this has some of that same cosmic psychedelic kind of feel to it like his other albums. But I don't know, and this is 1978. Maybe he's going down the road of Jesse Winchester in the late 70s, you know. And Jesse Winchester, a great artist in his own right, but he did kind of like change his tune too as he went along, and became a little bit more commercial. And so I didn't mean that in a bad way, because I like some of Jesse Winchester stuff. We're moving good here, guys. Burning Rome. This is cool. This is like one of my favorite bargain buys. Oh, oops. Almost knocked that over. Wow. That would have been a disaster. This is Burning Rome, and sorry about the but Burning Rome is a LA-based band, and this came out in 1982. And so to me, this is rock music, but how could it not have? To me, like it has new wave feel to it, even though it's like straight up rock. And there are some keyboard on here, but it's more in the background. Most of these guys, it's like a 4-piece, 2 guitars, I believe, a bass and drums. But so I'm thinking, okay, you might be like Quarter Flash or Pat Benatar in that era. But this lady's vocals, Vicky Thomas, are wonderful because they're sort of weak. But that's what makes this music so attractive. Like the weaker the voice, and I don't mean weak like it's horrible. I mean it just, you know Pat Benatar, you know. And I don't mean that as a bad thing, but to me that's a good thing on this stuff. It's a promo copy too. Sometimes I like music that has like a wobbliness to it, or what would be considered a weakness on the A&M label. And I used to do these pickups where every pickup it seemed like I had an A&M artist back in the day, and no different now. Yes, there is another A&M artist. But yeah, this rock music from the early 80s. It does got a little bit of a new wave feel to it, but definitely rock. And I love the vocals here, and I love the music. This is a keeper to me. I love early 80s stuff. She had me at hello. She had me at hello. And keep going here. This is Petra. This is cool. Not of This World, 1983 release. $2. So Petra stuff, not really collectible, but some very collectible, especially the later 80s albums they made. Some of those albums can be like a little bit more expensive, like in the $20 range. And I saw one there for $25. I'm like, no one's gonna buy Petra for $25. At least in my mind, I didn't think they were. There's a picture of the band right here. This with their original singer, Bob Hartman, very poppy, kind of AOR sounding. Petra, to me, was a band that looked like they could have been heavier than what they were. But they're kind of more pop rock AOR at best. They're not really a hard rock, or metal, but they kind of, on some songs, sometimes kind of scooted that line towards that. And I love Petra now, but I used to make in front of them when I was a kid. And I made in front of them for no reason, because I didn't even know anything about them. I'm like, oh, Petra's gay, like DeGarmo in Key or something. But now I find I kind of love this band. I love 80s music, so especially early 80s music, I'm a sucker for it. Speaking of that, Utopia, Swing to the Right. Now this is an album I bought for $3 off the vendor who had the Island Record Story and the split ends. So these two CDs and this I bought together for a whole whopping $7 off this guy, and he looked so depressed that even the $7 didn't revive a heartbeat in this guy. Um, this is a really cool album by Utopia. This one has a real new wave flair to it. I really like this record because of that. I love when Todd Rundgren goes catchy and snappy and poppy, and this album's got a few of those kind of songs on it. Junk rock, swing to the right, this Estrada, some really really cool The Up. There's some really cool bouncy kind of almost abstract art rockish new wave songs, and they almost, some of the songs almost borderline on, dare I say, power pop. But my friend Ken got me into Utopia, and ever since then I've been kind of like, I'll buy all their albums and sell them all. But I might keep this one for a little bit. This is definitely really good. Swing to the right, Utopia. So still on the Bearsville label at that point. All right, these next three were all in this $2 bin from that one guy, the one guy who had the $2 records, Pat, and he said he'd give these to me for $4 for half off the price. So I'll take it. Erotic Drum Band, and this is Plug Me to Death, 1978 single. I needed some disco, I got some disco. There's a song on here called Love Disco Style. How could it not be disco, right? So pretty happy to have this. Don't know anything about the Erotic Drum Band, but I have a little bit. Every now and then I get a huge disco impulse, and I'm a big fan of disco. I don't buy a lot of it because I know I'm not going to listen to it a lot, but I do like it, and so I'm hoping this will be a good single. I buy disco quite a bit, but most of the time I sell it, you know. This one's pretty cool too. This is San Francisco. So this is off the San Francisco Records label, which is like kind of a subsidiary, I think, or something to do with Atlantic Records. And these are all San Francisco based artists. So you have Cold Blood, Hammer, Tower of Power, Victoria, and David Lannon. So I don't know much about Hammer or Tower of Power, or no, not that, Victoria. I don't know much about Hammer or Victoria, but Cold Blood and Tower of Power both are horn bands. Of course, Tower of Power has got more of a soul thing, and Cold Blood I think has more of like fusion-y rock, horn rock kind of thing from the early 70s. I'm a fan of this kind of stuff. I love the bands like Chase and Blood, Sweat, and Tears, into of course Chicago and Chicago Transit Authority. I'm a fucking sucker for this shit, and it doesn't really make a rhyme or reason of why I like this, because when I think of this kind of music I think of it as being kind of annoying, but I like it. I like early 70s horn rock. David Lannon, it was a singer-songwriter from that period, but you can see the San Francisco label right here. I think this is really cool. I love early Tower of Power. I mean, everything about this just says, please, please buy Shane, and I listen to my own instincts on this one. And the last of the like half off $8 records I got from Pat, this is Annie in Wonderland. This was a no-brainer for me. Anne Haslam, who was the still singer at that time of beautiful band Renaissance. And this is a very strange record for her, with Roy Wood helping out on this album. And this is on the Sire label. I don't know if the inside is worth, I don't know why I'm taking out all these albums. Yeah, look at her, very heavenly. You could see Roy Wood right there. Of course, Roy Wood played with Jeff Lynne, and he was in The Move, and Roy Wood's Wizard, and da 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 da. Pretty cool to have. Yes, I'm pretty happy with this. Guys, I got people out front yelling. I live with two other people, so sometimes peace and quiet is, hard to get. So this is really cool, strange late 70s sounding Annie Haslam. And it kind of reminds me a little bit. It's got an artsiness to it and a fairy tale kind of feel to it that kind of conjures up images to me of the great, the one and only, that's right, Kate Bush. And even though they're artistically and stylistically much different, uh, Annie Haslam and Kate Bush are, I do feel like there's somewhat of a similarity here as far as like quirkiness and oddness of the music, you know. And I would only go that far because most people would say there's no connection at all, and I would probably most of the time agree, but I do think there's something here that kind of, you know. And I'm surprised Kate Bush hasn't done like a kids album because her music always strikes up this like childhood curiosity, I think, thing. And this one kind of touches on that a little bit too. I mean, Annie in Wonderland. I mean, come on, you know, what a cool album cover. All right, two more I bought from Pat, and then the rest I bought from the same vendor. And they're awesome records too, or most of them are awesome. Yeah, they're all awesome. This is Vinegar Joe with Rock and Roll Gypsies. So, Vinegar Joe was Robert Palmer's, I think, first band or band that he was in before he went solo. And what was interesting about Vinegar Vinegar Syndrome, I was going to say, that's a record label, is that they had female and male vocals. And you can see that's Elkie Brooks right there, and who is the female vocalist, and of course Robert Palmer right there. And they had kind of an interesting sound on the Echo label, very soul-fused rock and roll. And when I seen this cover, I'm thinking Tina Turner, and I guess this would to me to an extent, without the funk, like a white soul rock version of Ike and Tina Turner, and to an extent. Like, I find that interesting because I'm looking at the cover and I'm listening to some of the tracks on here, and I gotta say, I really kind of enjoyed this. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be more hard rock or more boogie, but it does have those elements in it. But it is more like soul fused rock and roll, and I really think this is a lot of fun. So Vinegar Joe's first album, Rock and Roll Gypsies, pretty cool to have. I've been interested in hearing Vinegar Joe forever. I always I knew the name, but never listened to the band. Ever listened to the band till like this weekend, and I was like pretty happy with what I had heard. All right, guys, we're getting close to the end here, and the last thing I picked up from Pat is this was $24, and I was really happy to get this for $24. The New Bomb Turks. This is Pissing at the Poison, singles and other swill, 90 to 94. Awesome. What can I say? New Bomb Turks were California based. I was gonna almost say even San Diego, but I don't know if that's true. Band that had a sort of manic, angry aggressiveness to them, and they were kind of, I guess, considered punk rock. And I always thought of them like akin to Rocket from the Crypt, but way more like just noisier and faster than that. And they're just a ball of energy. The New Bomb Turks are kind of like just like a hurricane that sped up at its like as fast as something can go and just goes like that. And that's kind of what New Bomb Turks are like. This is off the Crypt label. It's a double album of one of the best bands from the 90s. This is one of the best, in my opinion, bands from the 90s. I don't have anything by them. I don't think I've ever had anything by this band. Of course, I know all about them and I've heard Destroy Old Boy multiple times, but like they were a cool band back in the 90s. I remember people had their shit. I never had it. I was like, ooh, New Bomb Turks. So I was very familiar with this band back in the 90s, and great band. Good stuff here. So New Bomb Turks, an anthology of singles and probably other unrelated tracks. Pissing Out the Poison, singles and other swill. So this is 90 to 94, kind of a good era for their music. So this was an absolute steal. So we're going to kind of stay in the 90s for At least two of these next four. These I bought from this guy. He wanted to get out of selling records, but he had such good shit. All of them were sealed, and they're all fairly inexpensive records. And a lot of it was off this Kraft label. And I wasn't sure if he worked for Kraft Records or not. But this is the very first album by Brainiac. And this is Smack Bunny Baby. And I've been looking for some early Brainiac. Ohio-based band that are just absolutely batshit. I don't know how you describe them. They have a Moog organ, very mathy, weird time signatures, fuzzed out sort of 60s, but it's not garage rock. It has a pop element to it, indie rock, I guess. You have to hear this band to really kind of appreciate the wackiness of them. I mean, they're kind of fucking batshit. You know, this was way before like bands like in the 2000s, like God damn, those math bands that came out doing all the, you know, doing all these weird time signatures, and I can't think of one of those math bands right now. I was gonna say Converge, but I don't know if Converge is right. But I think of The Locust, who I love, as being like the more grindcore version of what, and not that they sound the same as Brainiac, but sort of, if you know what I mean. So we're moving along. This is a Canadian weirdo. His name is Ensign Broderick, and this is Ranger. So this is like, the description on this is a mix between Rolling Stones, Exiles on Main Street, sort of Rolling Stones 70s era, I believe, British glam rock, Sticky Fingers, sorry, not Exile, Sticky Fingers, and some Scott Walker. And of course, I see the Scott Walker in this, but it is a strange album. This just came out in 2018, so, well, not very new, but kind of newish. But Ensign Broderick is a Canadian singer. He's got a very distinctive voice, and I feel like there's a little Leonard Cohen thrown in a bit too. Some of it sounds a little dark. Interesting sounding stuff. This is his record Ranger, so if you haven't heard it, give this thing a spin. All right, we're almost done, and I might be under an hour. Quicksand with Slip. So I kind of never know what kind of mood I'm in until I get there, and as soon as I bought that new Bomb Turks, I knew which way I was going with what I kind of wanted to buy or listen to. And it's 90s alternative, and this band was great. Their first album, the original copy, you know, original pressing usually goes to $50 to $75 for this. So to me, I got this lovely, I'm not going to pull it out, but that's the color of the variant of the vinyl, which is really cool. Yeah, Quicksand was a noisy alternative band in the 90s. I call it like alternative metal, I guess, because it is heavy. And I almost think, man, you could almost throw it into that sort of Amphetamine Reptile thing with the noisy bands like Helmet, Janitor Joe, but they don't really sound like that. But they're just as noisy in a way. Maybe not as discordant, but they're just as noisy in their own way. So I'm not sure how you would describe them. I guess they would be called post-punk or post-hardcore or whatever you want to call it. But heavy, kind of, I hate saying grungy, but grungy sort of, I'd say alternative metal. I think Quicksand's a fantastic band. There's a lot of good hooks in this too, a lot of good hooks. And last but not least, and finally we're fucking done, this was something like, okay, my brother gave me some money for this show, and then I had spent the cash I had that I bought with me. So the profit I made, I didn't spend any. The money I made up there, I didn't spend any until I saw this bad boy, and I was like, "Mommy, like it." I was trying to do that Tommy Boy thing, but this was there, and it was $32 originally, and I got it priced down to $28. And this is Working Corners, the first four albums of the wonderful Nancy Griffith. And so this might be really my first box set of albums I've ever bought. And what a first box set I got here. This thing is heavy as hell. The first four albums by Nancy Griffith, including there's a Light Beyond These Woods, Poet in My Window. That's like late 70s, early 80s albums there. One's In a Very Blue Moon, which I love, and then The Last of the True Believers, which I love. Those I think are mid to late 80s releases, the last two. One's In a Very Blue Moon, I think it was 85, 86, and then Last of the True Believers might have been 88. Austin-based singer-songwriter. Of course, I think the thing people would probably gather is that she would be in the same camp as like an Emmylou Harris. And certainly, I guess you could say there's some similarities, but she's her own sort of thing. It's sort of country, it's sort of bluegrass. Some of it kind of can get bluegrass, but to me, she's a singer-songwriter. First and foremost, who has folk elements, has had some bluegrass, not a ton, but some bluegrass, and then some country as well. And some of it sounds very mainstream, but it's not music you hear on mainstream radio. So, yeah, so all four albums. I've never had a box set before of albums, and this being $28, I think is a steal. Now, I could sell this or keep it, for what I want to do with it, I don't know. And that is it, guys. That is it. That is the Tampa Record Show. This is my third Tampa Record Show that I've actually filmed and shown you guys. And hopefully you enjoyed what was on there. I'm doing Sarasota Record Show this weekend to buy. That one, it depends on what's on there. Otherwise, it might be a few weeks before I show. There will be a Spooky Empire pickups video, which I'll be doing at the end of this month, beginning of November. Probably the beginning of November, not the end of this month. It'll be like first week in November before I show that. Because I'm going to come back that Sunday. I'm not going to shoot it probably to the next day, exhausted as all get out. So that's what I have for you for now. I'll probably, because it is my birthday this weekend, if I do any birthday releases, if I get any birthday stuff, I might combine that with what I get in Sarasota and shoot a video next week. I might wait a few weeks. I don't know. But that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching the Tampa Bay show. Thanks for watching the videos. I love doing these. I was telling my brother, he goes, well, how many views you get? And at this point, I'm like, I don't care about the views. I just love doing this. It's like fun talking about music. I work in a job that's high stress, like a lot of you people would probably do. I don't get to talk about this kind of thing that I love the most, or one of the things I love the most, which is music. So I'll do this any day of the week just to talk about music. Even though I'm showing off what I have, I love to talk about whatever it is I have. So thank you for coming along for the ride. As always, I know a lot of people say that, but I really do, and I think they mean it too, but I really mean thank you for watching these videos. It means a lot to me that somebody out there is liking or digging or finding something interesting or whatever in what I'm doing. That's really cool. So take care. Bye.